So, dominating the conversation in the gaming landscape right now is artificial intelligence, or AI. And look, there are ways in which AI can be used that is actually beneficial to society. But the issue with a lot of the use cases for AI right now is that a lot of it is just about benefiting corporations. It's about them getting lazy and trying to steal other people's work because they themselves can't be creative enough. It is about corporations trying to cheapen out on labor and using artificial intelligence to do the art instead of, humans who actually are at the center, their humanity of what makes art in the first place. And then, people are becoming even more disillusioned by AI when they notice how so many resources are being put towards AI, like the recent DRAM shortage situation that is jacking up prices for electronics across the board for what should have been very, consumer accessible devices like consoles. I mean, as if recent price hikes weren't bad enough already, they're about to go up even more as a result of how AI has hogged all of the DRAM essentially and caused this mass shortage. And all of that is explained in two of these videos that I published titled Prices Are About to Get Ugly. And then, Xbox majorly screwed up and OpenAI screwed us all. OpenAI being a big part of why the DRAM shortage is happening in the first place. I'd recommend checking those videos out so you can get an idea for what the landscape looks like for artificial intelligence. And then there's the fact that at the end of it all, when you use AI, the products that you get are just like significantly worse than if they were made by humans. You can just sense how soulless they are and the fact that AI does not understand human context. I mean, the thing that's been going viral recently is how Amazon recently fully English dubbed this anime Banana Fish with AI, and it sounds like this.
Skipper, no please, no Skipper. Hey, stay with me. Come on, Skipper. Hey, you gotta fight. Don't die on me, Skip. Don't leave me, please.
So yeah. That's the level of cheapness that corporations think they can just get away with, that consumers will not notice the artistic degradation and are just trying to cash in on being able to replace labor with this garbage. And all of this obviously affects video games, where more and more companies are pushing for AI becoming a lot more normalized and are pushing for that technology to be more commonplace. And yeah, we're already starting to see a lot of layoffs happening because companies think AI can do those people's jobs. We're seeing companies just cheapen out on product output and creative output because they're just letting AI do its thing instead of having people really fine-tune and refine the artwork that is video games. Which is why Steam has been adamant about implementing disclosure of AI content, because a lot of people are just on a fundamental moral level against the way AI is commonly used, especially when it comes to like generative AI and whatnot. And also people want to make sure that they can gauge the quality of a product, and whether something, heavily features AI or not can be a major factor in, kind of being a potential red flag for whether the quality of something will suffer as a result of its inclusion. So at the very least, people want the disclosure so they can make decisions for themselves, educated decisions, which is why if you go to Steam right now, you'll find this AI content on Steam section, where back in January of 2024, they added a new AI disclosure section that tries to separate AI usage in games into two broad categories: pre-generated, any kind of content, art, code, sound, etc., created with the help of AI tools during development. Under the Steam distribution agreement, you promise Valve that your game will not include illegal or infringing content and that your game will be consistent with your marketing materials. In our pre-release review, we will evaluate the output of AI-generated content in your game the same way we evaluate all non-AI content, including a check that your game meets those promises. And then there's a live-generated category, which is any kind of content created with the help of AI tools while the game is running. In addition to following the same rules as pre-generated AI content, this comes with an additional requirement. In the content survey, you'll need to tell us what kind of guardrails you're putting on your AI to ensure it's not generating illegal content. And this is a move by Steam and Valve that was massively praised, where all they're asking for is that you be transparent with customers about the usage of AI, given all of the moral implications surrounding it, given that people have very specific stances when it comes to AI, and given that the disclosure of whether something was heavily made with AI can potentially impact its quality. But one person who thinks this is all useless is Epic CEO Tim Sweeney, who came out on November 26, 2025 with the following tweet in response to somebody saying Steam and all digital marketplaces need to drop the made with AI label. It doesn't matter anymore. Tim Sweeney responded with, agreed. The AI tag is relevant to art exhibits for authorship disclosure and to digital content licensing marketplaces where buyers need to understand the rights situation. It makes no sense for game stores where AI will be involved in nearly all future production. You can see right here the ratio that Tim Sweeney has received, judging by the fact that despite this garnering 5.3 million views, it's only garnered 2,000 likes, and the amount of retweets and the amount of responses is very close to that. And you can see in the comments a lot of people getting upvoted for opposing what Tim Sweeney is saying here. For example, one of the top responses to this has 12,000 likes, significantly more than Tim Sweeney's original tweet. This is Jory's the Man saying, I kindly remind you of game and TV trailers needing to put not real gameplay as a disclaimer because gamers were getting tired of being misled with flashy CGI pieces. I should know I worked on the trailer that started it all. AI should be the same. Gamers have a right to know. Whether you agree or disagree with the usage of AI, I think what universally is agreed upon is that giving people more information is never a bad thing. It's not going to hurt anyone to be more transparent about how a product was made. It'll just keep potential customers educated. So calling for the abolishment of what is essentially just a transparency policy is something that obviously isn't going down well, especially in the gaming realm where AI has become such a controversial topic, something that many people have acknowledged to be a tool that has degraded the quality of game making, and it's something that has allowed corporations to try to make themselves richer while cheapening out on the output for consumers and also cheapening out on hiring the right people and treating developers right. And so Tim Sweeney coming out and defending this and declaring that AI will be just commonplace across the entire industry without adding more nuance to that commentary than that has really not gone down well at all. At one point, that one tweet basically started trending, and there's a whole section dedicated to how this is trending and people's responses. And, one of the top comments here, which garnered 7 million views and almost 300,000 likes in a couple of days, it's just showing Steam doing nothing and Steam's competitors shooting themselves in the face. Steam's just kind of doing its own thing. Tim Sweeney's the CEO of Epic, and they've come along with their Epic Games Store, trying to compete with Steam. And what a lot of people are putting out there is that this is why Steam is ahead and you're not, Tim Sweeney, because Steam has just done everything possible to convenience customers and really listen to customer feedback and enact policies that are generous to them, especially where refund policies are concerned. And the fact that they chose to do AI disclosures at all and put some, regulations and limitations in place on that front, that's just a really positive thing. Tim Sweeney just has such a corporate mindset and way of thinking, and that's, I feel, in large part what's putting Epic Games Store behind Steam and why it will never catch up. I mean, Steam's had more time to flesh out its features, but it has also been approached with the right mindset, and that's something that Valve has often been praised for. I mean, they've not been perfect in their history, but you can tell that Steam and Valve, especially them being a private company, they don't really care about what investors think. They ultimately care about their own way of doing things. And Gaben, being kind of someone who's quote unquote one of us, like, yes, he's a CEO, but he's also like one of us in the sense of like he's a gaming nerd. And having someone like that at the helm means that they can empathize with customers and with developers and with aspects of the games industry in a way that allows for really consumer-friendly practices. Whereas Tim Sweeney just thinks very much in terms of corporate and practical terms rather than just, like, how can we best serve the consumers and the people who are using our platform? But yeah, I mean, there are tons of viral posts and responses to reports of Tim Sweeney saying that it makes no sense for game stores to disclose that AI is involved just because nearly all future production will involve AI. Here's, one top comment saying, why hide it? What are you afraid of? Garnering, hundreds of thousands of views and tens of thousands of likes. Here's another one with similar numbers. Why are proponents of AI so upset about labeling a game made with AI on a storefront? Isn't AI the future? Inevitable? Only stupid Luddites are avoiding it? Shouldn't you be proud to promote that your game was created with it? It's almost like it's wildly unpopular. That's a great point. If AI is so great, then surely the disclosure that something was made with AI is only going to benefit the game's sales, right? Oh wait, it won't, and that's what they're afraid of. The thing is, there's no actual drawback to labeling a game that used AI or that has a lot of AI in it, a lot of AI-generated assets, as being something with AI. For the customers, there's zero drawback whatsoever. The only drawback is the potential negative optics that it can incur upon the publisher, the developer, the corporation who is involved with that production. And so that's ultimately what this is about. It's about defending their optics, not about defending customers or, about whether a feature is useless or not, because additional transparency, at worst, it's something that you can ignore. At best, it's something that will inform customers about their purchasing decision. Here's another top comment that retweeted Opera GX's post that basically made fun of Tim Sweeney for his recent comments that also went viral, saying nobody wants AI, but it'll be forced down our throats anyway. They don't stop and question that it isn't wanted. The culture of games and art has been hijacked by gigacorps that don't care about art and don't care about what you want. The use of AI is nuanced. Do they use it to streamline optimization, or do they use it to replace real artists? And that's really the question. It's one thing if a development project is led by humans who use AI tools to, make certain processes less insufferable. That's one thing. But it's another thing if AI is at the forefront and the humans are just there to type in prompts to have AI ultimately lead the charge on artistic decisions. That's where the difference lies. Like with anything, AI is another tool, and a tool can be used for good and it can be used for evil. And so much of AI right now feels like it's used to exploit and for evil purposes. The statement continues that we use that undefined nuance as a shield to feed you AI-designed gameplay loops with AI-written stories designed to sell you AI skins for AI-created characters. Removing the disclosure will just cast a blindfold over the consumer's eyes so billionaire Bill can up his stock prices because art is just business to them and they will milk it until it's slop. Man, poetry right there. I could not have said it better myself. We can have nuanced discussions about what ways of using AI is good and what ways of using AI is just awful. And we can talk about ways to label different games with different AI disclosures and whatnot. But to say we shouldn't do it at all, to say that there should be no transparency whatsoever on AI, that it's a useless endeavor, is indeed putting a blindfold over the whole subject so that corporations can take advantage of you through their AI technology usage so that there can be no scrutiny on that front, because AI can yield a lot of gains for corporations who can cheapen out on many aspects through the usage of AI. That's ultimately what they want, for people to not care and to not be able to see what's going on. But yeah, I mean, you keep scrolling down through this particular trending topic, and it's just Tim Sweeney getting utterly destroyed by just about the entirety of the internet. Here's somebody saying, "Don't pirate our games," they screamed, while employing tools that pirated the work of millions of artists. When it comes to the less ethical usage of AI and the way so much of Gen AI is taking amalgams of other artists and other people's work. It's just ironic what they demand from consumers, don't steal from us, while they themselves go around and steal other people's work for their own gains. Here's Legendary Drop saying, "Tim, I want to let you know this right here is why you'll never beat Steam. Makes no sense for game stores, but it does make sense for customers. We don't need a cash register, we need transparency and a voice." And that's what a lot of people think the difference is between Epic Games Store and Steam and Valve. Sure, Epic Games Store has free weekly games, and that's enticing, but in terms of the overall ecosystem, the overall kind of environment that they're fostering, that all ultimately comes from leadership. And when you look at the leadership of Tim Sweeney and what he spouts, it just makes it less trustworthy to stick with Epic versus Steam and Valve, who are very committed to just like doing their own thing, and that involves doing things that make sense for the customers, even if it's not beneficial to corporations. The fact that they're choosing transparency because it makes sense for customers and that they know that's what they would want just puts them ahead in terms of trustworthiness as a platform. Some people are responding to Tim with, "We disagree, Tim. We think it's important to know when a game was made with Gen AI so we can avoid buying it." And yeah, I mean, for some people, it's a matter of principle. And for those folks, they deserve to have the full disclosure of like how a product was made. Was AI involved, and how exactly was AI used, and how much of the game ultimately encompasses AI assets that were created by artificial intelligence rather than by human beings. I will say though, ultimately this is a positive development because the conversation has gotten this loud now to the point where just about every post you see, every take you see on this front is one that disagrees with Tim, and they all go viral with tens of thousands of likes and hundreds of thousands of views. And this level of people like being in tune with the topic and understanding what's really going on behind the scenes and what corporations are really trying to do, that is really encouraging to see. The worst thing that can happen is for stuff like this to kind of fall off by the wayside, to kind of go past the radar and not be talked about at all. The fact that discussions are happening means that it will continue to be a discussion. It can raise conversations so that appropriate figureheads who are able to enact laws and regulations are able to regulate this, and also so that certain practices can be stigmatized, because that's how certain practices die, when it becomes too bad of a PR move, when it becomes too much of a risk and too much of a liability to engage in that practice. That's what happened to loot boxes. That's what happened to NFTs. The conversation surrounding those topics got so negative that eventually companies knew that if they implemented them, especially to the egregious level that they did once upon a time, that that they will be scrutinized and that their games would actually suffer in their sales numbers and it would impact their bottom line. And so conversations like these do help stigmatize certain kinds of AI practices, and it helps people be aware and in turn be able to call stuff out in a way where if companies engage in this way, their bottom line can be affected because of the negative PR that it will generate. And so to see something similar happening with AI is just encouraging to see. And Tim Sweeney didn't help matters here because he came out with this cheeky response saying, hey, why stop at AI use disclosure? We could have mandatory disclosures for what shampoo brand the developer uses. Customers deserve to know, LOL. I don't know what kind of retort this is. I don't know what kind of victory Tim Sweeney got from this response, but what shampoo brand a developer uses has literally zero impact on the quality of a product, on the development practices of a product, how artists are treated, whether art is stolen or not. Like, a shampoo brand has nothing to do with the moral implications and with the quality implications of the art form and the medium that is video games. Whereas AI usage has a direct impact on all of those things, which is why people are asking for transparency on that front and for certain checks and balances. It's a really simple argument. I don't know what Tim Sweeney is doing here with this idiotic argument that only makes him look that much more stupid. So the bottom line is that this is not going well for Tim Sweeney at all. All he has helped is accelerate the stigmatization of certain kinds of usage for AI, for the less morally upstanding versions of AI usage. And that's in the same way that Star Wars Battlefront 2 had to show how awful loot boxes can be for that kind of backlash and movement against it to start to happen. The same way, a Bored Apes Yacht Club had to just show how ridiculous this whole concept of NFTs is, to stigmatize that aspect of things and for news to spread about how harmful NFTs were. And in the same way that, folks like Tim Sweeney had to say some dumb shit to really highlight how awful AI is and how not beneficial much of its use is for society, and how much of its use is about just creative bankruptcy and just screwing over artists and trying to cheapen out on things and giving customer slop so that corporations can make more money. The fact that all this is being really spotlighted by recent conversations, recent developments, the recent thing going on with Amazon's English dub that is utter garbage, the stuff going on with the DRAM shortage and how much damage it is all causing to customers, and the fact that we're seeing the quality of products made with AI just being so much inferior than what artists can accomplish. It's the gauntlet that has to be gone through so that we can finally really calibrate how AI can be used in ways that are ethical and what checks and balances there can be to ensure they're used ethically. And discussions and awareness is, I think, the start of that. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on with the Tim Sweeney situation. That's kind of my take on it. But I'd love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on everything going on surrounding AI right now in the comments below. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.